A German engineer by the name of Carl Benz had a fantasy, and he literally turned his fantasy into a fact. And in January 1886, Carl Benz was issued a patent for the Benz motor carriage, and the age of the automobile had dawned. This is a replica of that magnificent machine. And you know, before Benz ever turned his fantasy into a theory even, certainly long before he turned it into a fact, he had to ask himself a couple of questions that you and I and every other dreamer will have to go through. He had to ask himself, am I able to do this? Well, he seemed to have that innate awareness of this higher self, this image of perfection within him, and he saw himself as a person that was actually able to take and turn the fantasy into a fact. Now, he must have been a pretty courageous guy because there were no horseless carriages in those days. But then he had to ask himself, am I willing? And you see, he had to ask himself, am I willing to accept the ridicule that I'm bound to get? Am I willing to accept the failures? Well, he said, yes, I am willing. He was willing to pay the ultimate price to turn his fantasy into a fact. And ridicule he got. His own partner thought he had gone mad, and he had to find himself a more congenial colleague to work with. He would take this thing out in the evening. He'd take it out at night, so no one would see him. He'd escape some of the ridicule. And time after time, he couldn't get it going. He had to push it back. But it never dawned on him that he would not ultimately realize his dream. When this magnificent machine completed its first long journey with Benz at the wheel, every beat of the engine found an answering echo in the heart of the driver, as every turn of the wheels brought him closer to his goal, to the realization of what once was a fantasy. Now, in order for you to turn your fantasies into a fact, you have to go through exactly the same process as Carl Benz. And if you do go through the same process, you'll meet with exactly the same success, regardless of the opposition you might come up against. You have to ask, am I able to turn this fantasy of mine into a fact? Can I actually realize it? Can I turn my dreams into reality? Now, you're either going to say, yes, I'm able to, or no, I'm not. If you realize you are able, if you have an understanding of this potential, this power within you, then you have to ask yourself, are you willing? And there's a long series of tests there. You don't even know what you're going to come up against. One thing is for certain, you'll come up against ridicule. You may have to move. You may have to do all kinds of things that you don't even think about. You have to be willing to do whatever's required if you really want to turn your fantasy into a fact. The second you say, yes, I'm willing, at that instant, you've created your theory. Now, if you happen to run into a stumbling block on the able part, I'm going to help you over that just a moment. Before you can turn your fantasy into a fact, you first have to turn it into a theory. And before you can do that, there's a couple of tests that you're going to have to pass. You have to first ask yourself, am I able to do this? Am I actually able to turn my fantasy into a fact? Now, generally, when a person doesn't know how to do something, they say they can't do it. The truth is they can. You and I are capable of doing anything. We are God's greatest creation. We're spiritual beings. And as spiritual beings, we're able to do anything at all. All things are possible. Our objective is to figure out how, not whether we're able to or not. Now, it would appear as if the only way I could get to the other side of this ladder is to climb over the ladder. But the truth isn't always in the appearance of things. You see, I could just walk through this ladder. Now, where I might have used an illusion to get this point across, you might want to think of this for a second. All obstacles are illusions. But the obstacles cause us to have doubts in our mind. Are we really capable of doing this? You know, if you had formed the attitude that every obstacle is an illusion, just like this ladder, I didn't have to climb over it. I could just walk right through it. Well, you may not be able to walk through some of the obstacles, but I can guarantee you this. You're able to figure out how to get around them, how to get over them, or how to get to where you want to go. You're able to do anything. So get the idea about whether you're able or not right out of your mind. You're quite capable of doing anything that you want to do. You can turn your fantasies into facts, just the same as Edison or Carl Benz did. The question now you want to ask yourself, am I willing to? Am I willing to do whatever is required to realize my dream? You can answer yes to that question. Like that, you've built a theory in your mind and you're well on your way. Now let's review what we've done. We've built our fantasy. We've admitted we're able to do it. We said, yes, I'm willing. And what we've got is a theory. We've got a dream. We have a winner's image in our conscious mind. Now our objective is to firmly plant it and let it take root in our subconscious mind so that it will change our behavior and change our result. To properly deposit your winning image in the treasury of your subconscious mind, it's vitally important that you remember the first law of learning. It's repetition. Use this program every day, over and over and over again for 90 days. Now, this might not make a whole lot of sense to you, but I want to suggest that you take a half an hour, possibly first thing in the morning, or maybe just before you go to bed at night, and put this videotape on and watch it every day for 90 days. You'll find that all the important points start to get burned right into your mind, and it'll also start to change your life. You're going to develop a heightened awareness of all the key points of this program. Take the audio cassettes from this program, clear your car of all other cassettes, and just put these 3 tapes in. And all the time you're in the car, play these audio cassettes. Now you're going to find that you'll be able to talk right along with me. You're going to know the next word that's coming. And you're going to find that these ideas are going to become a part of your way of living, a part of your way of life. Begin to visualize yourself with some of the nice things you'd like to have. Possibly the home that you'd like to live in. It may be the business you want to build or the position you'd like to hold. Possibly the income you'd like to earn. You may want to visualize the vacation that you'd like to take. What is important is that you do visualize. It's not only important that you watch the video cassettes every day and become very familiar with them, or listen to the audio cassettes on a regular basis. It's vitally important that you set aside 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, at least 3 times a day, to completely clear your mind, block out any distractions, let yourself totally relax, and begin to see yourself actually living the life that you imagined yourself living. See yourself the winner that you want to be. And let all these beautiful pictures sink deep into every cell of your being. In other words, add a lot of emotion to it. When you watch the top movie stars like George C. Scott or Katharine Hepburn or possibly Peter O'Toole, the Oscar winners, they're not acting, they're literally living the part. And as you visualize yourself living the life that you want, let yourself feel yourself living it. In other words, burn these ideas deep in your mind and then start making a written description of them. Now, after you've made the written description, just freeze it. Stand back and take a real good look at the written description of your vision and then compare it to how you're actually living. Then you'll see the changes that have to be made and begin making those changes one at a time. There are hundreds of changes you could make, but a good place to start would be with your own personal appearance. Something as simple as how you dress and how you walk and how you project yourself sends a strong message to everyone in your external world, but it also sends a very powerful message to your subconscious mind. You know, Cary Grant, which wasn't even his name, he even changed his name to Cary Grant. He projected himself different, he walked different, he dressed different, he talked different. He one time said, I acted like Cary Grant for so long, I became him. That's what we're suggesting you do. Present yourself physically in a manner that's consistent with this new winning image that you're developing. Then we want to go inside. Take a real close look at ourselves with our inner eye of understanding. How do we perceive ourselves? Are we beginning to see ourselves from within as the winner that we really want to be? When you look at this picture, do you see a beautiful young lady or an ugly old lady? In fact, they're both there. It just takes a shift in focus to see one or the other. How do you see yourself? In the transition period, when you're in the process of implanting your winner's image in your subconscious, there will in fact be 2 people for you to perceive. the old you and the new you, the winner. So every time you see yourself as a failure or lacking in some way, remember this picture and shift your focus until you see the beautiful new you. Now take a look at this picture. If you concentrate on the black areas, you will see two heads facing each other. You could even see conflict in the way the faces are confronting each other. But if you concentrate on the white area, you will see a vase or vessel. You could even imagine that vessel overflowing with peace and harmony. How do you perceive your world? Do you see it as harsh and difficult, where you have to fight every step of the way? Or do you view it in the way a winner does, aware of abundance and plenty for all? A winner is never in conflict with his world. He sees harmony in all situations and lets it work in his favor. All it takes is a shift in focus. Now let's review the overall process. We built the fantasy, we admitted we're able, we said we're willing, we built the theory. We committed to use the program, both the video and the audio cassettes. We've completed the exercises in the workbook. We're working towards making the changes. We're beginning to visualize on a regular basis and emotionalize those visions 3 times a day. Now, do you know, every time we do that, we're impressing that winner's image upon the subconscious mind. And every time we impress that winning image upon the subconscious mind, the old image fades. The one becomes stronger, and the old one becomes weaker. Ultimately, that winner's image becomes our new self-image, and the reflection of it is obvious for the whole world to see and for you and I to enjoy. That's when you'll look at yourself and you'll see you're actually living your fantasy. And you'll know and realize that you've created a better world for yourself and everyone else to enjoy. And you'll also realize that what you're looking at is a reflection of your own winning image. Now, this video has given you an excellent overview of what can and must be done for you to develop the winner's image. I want to recommend that you follow the instructions in your exercise book, listen to your cassettes every day, do exactly what we've suggested, and you're going to turn your world into one of absolute beauty. Remember what Emerson said, what lies before you and what lies behind you are actually tiny matters compared to what lies within you, an image of perfection. Keep developing that winner's image.